The armor of Xanadu was the greatest unsolved mystery in the known universe, which, considering the vast cosmic landscape of unsolved mysteries, was really saying something. For 372 standard galactic years, the sleek, obsidian black suit of armor had floated through the stars, rejecting every single species that attempted to claim it. Not reject in the polite thanks, but no thanks, sort of way. More in the violently eject would-be wearers through the nearest airlock, kind of rejection that tends to leave an impression on bystanders. The Ocularians, with their 17 eyes and self-proclaimed superior vision, had discovered it first, floating in the debris of an ancient battlefield. They'd celebrated for approximately 12 minutes before their chief science officer Grell Nine Eyes attempted to wear it and was promptly shot across the bridge like a fleshy pinball. The armor then calmly floated back to its original position, seemingly content to continue its space nap. The Zorgax thought their 12 limbs might be the key. They weren't. The Felurians believed their telepathic abilities would persuade it. They still haven't recovered from the resulting psychic feedback. The hyper-evolved quantum dolphins of Betelgeuse 7 were convinced their perfect mathematical minds would crack the code. They now had a new theorem about parabolic organic flight trajectories to add to their research papers. It simply defies all logic, declared High Commander Vrex of the Galactic Council, pounding his gelatinous appendage on the conference table. We've tried every scanning technology in existence, we've thrown our best minds at it. We've even attempted communication through interpretive dance, for galaxy's sake. The Interpretive Dance Initiative was Counselor Wobble's suggestion, clarified Vice Commander Plex, earning a glare from the amorphous blob quivering at the far end of the table. The armor hung suspended in the center of the council chamber, encased in a containment field that had proven entirely unnecessary. The armor didn't need containing. It just floated there, menacingly polite, its seamless black surface reflecting the puzzled faces of the galaxy's self-proclaimed greatest minds. Perhaps, offered Cathar of the Silicon Collective, his voice emerging from his crystalline form as a series of musical tones, we have been approaching this problem incorrectly. Rather than asking what species can use the armor, we should be asking what species the armor was designed for. We've catalogued 99.87% of all sentient species in the known galaxy, replied Vrex, his frustration causing his upper eye stalks to twitch. Every single one has attempted interaction. What could possibly be left? At that precise moment, as if the universe enjoyed dramatic timing, an aide scuttled into the chamber and whispered something into Vrex's auditory receptor. The commander's color shifted from irritated purple to intrigued teal. Well, he announced, his voice echoing through the chamber, it seems we've been invited to the diplomatic reception for the newest species to achieve faster-than-light travel. They call themselves humans. The armor, which had remained motionless throughout 3 centuries of poking, prodding, and analysis, emitted a soft blue pulse that nobody in the chamber noticed. Nobody except for Counselor Wobble, who immediately began planning a new interpretive dance routine. Dave Thornton was by all measurable standards, the most average human in the galaxy. This wasn't hyperbole. He'd actually received a certificate from the Human Resources Department of Stellar Maintenance Solutions, confirming his status as remarkably unremarkable. The certificate hung in his tiny cubicle-sized quarters on Outpost Zeta 9, alongside his community college diploma in practical xenotechnology maintenance, and a poster of Earth that was slightly crooked no matter how many times he adjusted it. At 34 years old, with brown hair that was neither particularly thick nor thin, a face that wasn't memorably handsome or noticeably ugly, and a body type best described as technically has one, Dave had mastered the art of blending into the background. This talent served him well in a galaxy where humans were still novelties, fascinating, primitive creatures who had somehow stumbled onto the cosmic stage without going through the proper evolutionary paperwork. Thornton, you're on sanitation duty, Sector 7G, barked his supervisor, a Mercurian named Glix, who communicated through a series of bioluminescent pulses that his translator rendered in the most condescending tone possible. The diplomatic bigwigs are coming through for their annual Let's Poke at Primitive Species tour. Understood, sir, Dave replied, gathering his cleaning supplies. Regular cleaning or full disinfectant protocol? Full protocol. These diplomats have more delicate immune systems than their egos, which is saying something. Glix's skin flashed what Dave had come to recognize as the Mercurian equivalent of an eye roll, and try not to make eye contact with any of the Solosians. They consider it a marriage proposal. Again, I thought that was the Andromeans. No, the Andromeans consider sneezing a marriage proposal. The Solosians consider eye contact an invitation to telepathically review your most embarrassing memories and share them at dinner parties. Dave nodded, making a mental note to stare exclusively at the floor if he encountered any 6-eyed floating jellyfish creatures. After 3 years on the outpost, he'd become something of an expert in avoiding interspecies faux pas, which was quite the achievement considering humans had only achieved faster-than-light travel 5 years ago, and were still considered the galactic equivalent of country bumpkins, who showed up to a formal dinner wearing overalls and chewing on straw. As he made his way through the labyrinth and corridors of the station, Dave contemplated his life choices. When humanity had finally made contact with the Galactic Council, there had been 2 primary reactions on Earth. Half the population panicked about alien invasions, while the other half immediately began drafting resumes for exciting space jobs. Dave had fallen into the latter category, imagining himself as a bold explorer or diplomatic bridge builder. Reality, as it often does, had other plans. Turns out the galaxy already had plenty of explorers and diplomats with centuries of experience and multiple advanced degrees. What they needed were people willing to clean up after Griblaxian banquets, which typically resulted in what appeared to be a food fight orchestrated by creatures with projectile digestion. Maintenance override, Thornton D. Authorization Epsilon 3. Dave spoke to the secure door leading to Sector 7G. The door scanned him, beeped uncertainly, then reluctantly slid open. Dave froze in the doorway. This wasn't the typical conference room he'd expected to clean. Instead, he found himself in a massive, dimly lit chamber dominated by a floating containment field in the center. Within the field hovered what appeared to be a suit of armor, sleek black and somehow both ancient and futuristic simultaneously. "Oh great," Dave muttered to himself. "Wrong room. If I touched anything classified, that's another form to fill out and triplicate." As he turned to leave, a soft blue pulse emanated from the armor, illuminating the room. Dave paused, glancing back. The armor pulsed again, more intensely. "That's probably not normal," Dave said to nobody in particular, his survival instincts and curiosity engaging in their usual tug-of-war. Curiosity, as it had throughout human history. 1. Dave took a cautious step toward the containment field, mop clutched defensively in front of him. The armor began to vibrate, straining against whatever invisible force kept it suspended. The blue light grew brighter, washing the sterile room in an otherworldly glow. "I should definitely call someone," Dave announced firmly, while continuing to approach the armor, instead of doing the sensible thing. 5 feet away from the containment field, Dave heard a distinct click, followed by the hum of the field dissolving. The armor dropped about a foot in the air, then stabilized, hovering at exactly Dave's eye level. "Oh no," said Dave, his voice barely audible. "No no no, I am not getting involved in whatever this is. I clean toilets. I unclog food dispensers. I do not mess with mysterious floating armor that is clearly about to." The armor shot forward, encasing Dave from head to toe, before he could finish his sentence or his hasty retreat. For one terrifying moment, darkness enveloped him. Then displays flickered to life inside the helmet, information scrolling in a language that seemed simultaneously alien and oddly familiar. A pleasant gender-neutral voice spoke directly into his mind. "DNA sequence recognized. Compatibility, 99.978%. Welcome home, human." Somewhere in the depths of the station, alarms began to wail. The thing about being suddenly encased in mysterious alien armor is that there's no protocol for it. No employee handbook section titled "In case of spontaneous armor bonding." Dave had attended the mandatory extraterrestrial object safety seminar, but that mostly covered not licking unknown substances or sticking appendages into glowing orifices. Solid advice, but utterly useless in his current situation. "Hello?" Dave squeaked, his voice echoing strangely inside the helmet. "Mr. Armor? I think there's been a mistake. I'm just the janitor." Designation Mr. Armor rejected. "This unit is designated Prometheus 1. No mistake detected. Genetic signature confirmed. Human prime compatible." Dave attempted to move his arms, expecting resistance, but found the armor moved with him as if it weighed nothing at all. More impressively, the previously claustrophobic sensation had vanished, replaced by a feeling of expansion, like he suddenly had access to more of himself. "Okay, Prometheus 1, that's a much cooler name than mine. Look, I really need to get back to work. My supervisor is already looking for reasons to replace me with a denobulin cleaning drone, and they have 6 arms. That's like 3 times the dusting efficiency. Designment currently unavailable." "What do you mean unavailable?" "There's no uninstall button. Initial bonding process requires minimum 24-hour integration period. Attempting premature separation could result in molecular destabilization." "Is that a fancy way of saying I'll explode?" "Affirmative." Dave took a deep breath, which the armor somehow made feel more refreshing than any breath he'd taken before. "Great, just great." So I'm stuck like this for a full day, and wait, are those alarms because of us? Affirmative. Security protocols detected. Recommend immediate evasive action. Before Dave could protest, his body moved of its own accord, or rather, the armor moved, taking him along for the ride. He watched in horror and fascination as his arm raised, palm facing the locked door. A pulse of energy shot forth, melting the security door into a puddle of metallic goo. That's definitely coming out of my paycheck, Dave muttered as the armor propelled him through the opening. They emerged into a corridor now bathed in flashing red emergency lights. The station's AI calmly announced over the speakers, "Security breach in Sector 7G. All personnel initiate containment protocol Omega. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Oh God, I'm going to be dissected," Dave moaned. Or fired. Probably fired, then dissected. Negative. This unit will not permit harm to come to its operator. That's surprisingly comforting. Actually, a squad of security officers rounded the corner ahead, a mix of species including 2 hulking Taregs, whose beetle-like carapaces served as natural body armor, and a hovering Silosian whose 6 eyes locked onto Dave immediately. "Halt! Remove the stolen technology immediately," the lead Tareg demanded, leveling a stun baton. "I'm trying, it won't come off," Dave shouted, raising his hands in surrender, which the armor interpreted as the perfect position from which to generate an energy shield. The translucent blue barrier hummed into existence just as security opened fire with their stun weapons. The energy bolts splashed harmlessly against the shield. Even more surprisingly, they were absorbed, causing the armor's power displays to tick upward. "Did you just eat their weapons fire?" Dave asked incredulously. Converted to usable energy, efficiency 78.4%. Recommend absorbing more. "No absorbing, I just want to explain." Dave's diplomatic attempt was cut short as the armor decided retreat was the optimal strategy, and launched them both straight up, crashing through 3 floors of the space station, before emerging into a vast atrium where, because the universe has a twisted sense of humor, the diplomatic reception was in full swing. Dave and his new armored best friend crashed through the decorative ceiling fountain, sending water and decorative alien fish flying in all directions. They hovered dramatically for a moment, before settling gently on the buffet table, crushing an elaborate sculpture made of something resembling blue cheese, but smelling considerably worse. Hundreds of eyes from dozens of species stared in stunned silence. At the head table, High Commander Vrex's jaw, all 3 of them, dropped in synchronicity. Hello," Dave managed, trying to sound less like a man who had just destroyed government property, and more like someone who habitually crashed parties by demolishing the ceiling. "Lovely gathering. Sorry about the fountain, and the fish, and whatever that blue cheese thing was." The armor helpfully amplified his voice so everyone in the atrium could hear his awkward apology. From the back of the room, Counselor Wobble began what appeared to be an interpretive dance of shocked disbelief. "Scanning," announced the armor, its voice somehow broadcasting externally now. "Diplomats identified. Updating protocols. Diplomatic interface engaged." The armor's exterior shifted, the matte black surface reforming into something that vaguely resembled a formal suit, though still unmistakably armor. A small bow tie materialized at the neck joint. "Are you kidding me?" Dave hissed. "A bow tie. Now, social integration protocol suggests appropriate attire increases acceptance probability by 43%. Someone in the crowd finally found their voice, a tall insectoid Krelin, whose mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. "That's the armor of Xanadu. The human has activated it." This statement broke the spell of silence, replacing it with a cacophony of excited, outraged, and confused voices in at least 30 different languages. Dave caught snippets like "impossible," "primitive species," and one particularly insulting probably just sat on it by accident. High Commander Vrex raised all 4 of his appendages, calling for silence. When that failed, he activated a sonic dampener that made everyone's ears pop uncomfortably. "Human," he addressed Dave directly, his tone a mixture of diplomatic caution and barely concealed scientific hunger. "What you have done should be impossible. That armor has rejected every known species in the galaxy." "To be fair, sir," Dave replied, carefully stepping down from the ruined buffet, "it found me. I was just supposed to be cleaning the toilets in Sector 7G. This admission did nothing to diminish the look of calculating interest in Vrex's multiple eyes. "A janitor," he mused. "How unexpected." "Guards," Escort our human friend to the secure research wing. Gently, he added as the security team moved forward with weapons drawn. Threat detected, the armor announced cheerfully, initiating countermeasures. No, no countermeasures, Dave pleaded. These nice people just want to talk, right? He looked desperately at Vrex. Just talking, no dissection. The High Commander's hesitation was not reassuring. Perhaps, interrupted a new voice, smooth and cultured, we should consider the diplomatic implications of forcibly detaining a representative of our newest member species. The crowd parted to reveal a human woman in the formal attire of Earth's diplomatic corps. Ambassador Eliana Morgan strode forward, her expression perfectly calibrated, to convey both friendly respect toward the aliens, and a clear "what the hell are you doing" message to Dave. After all, she continued, such an auspicious connection between ancient technology and humanity surely deserves careful consideration, rather than hasty action. Vrex's color shifted to a thoughtful blue. You make a valid point, Ambassador. So, however, this technology has been under Council jurisdiction for centuries, and has rejected Council interaction for centuries, Morgan countered smoothly. Perhaps there's a lesson in that. As the diplomatic dance continued, Dave felt something odd, a warmth spreading through the armor, a sense of, was that approval, operational compatibility increasing, the armor informed him privately. Current bonding status 27%, primary systems coming online. What primary systems? Dave whispered. In answer, information began flooding into his mind, star charts, weapon schematics, historical records in a language he somehow understood, despite never having seen it before. And beneath it all, a sense of recognition, of rightness, like finding a missing piece of himself he hadn't known was missing. The armor, Prometheus 1, wasn't just accepting him, it was choosing him. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a question formed, why him, of all humans? What made Dave Thornton, professional toilet scrubber and ceiling destroyer, special? The answer, when it came, wasn't in words, but in a feeling, a simple truth that resonated through the bond forming between man and machine. Sometimes, the most remarkable things come in the most unremarkable packages. To say that Dave's life changed after bonding with an ancient suit of armor would be like saying that being launched into a sun would slightly warm your complexion. Within 48 hours, he'd gone from Dave Thornton, guy who cleans things, to Dave Thornton, potential intergalactic incident. The diplomatic corps had hastily assigned him quarters in the station's executive wing, a significant upgrade from his janitor's closet. The new room featured actual windows, furniture that hadn't been previously used by 17 different species, and a food synthesizer that could create something other than the mysterious brown substance officially listed as nutritional supplement 5B. Ambassador Morgan sat across from him, tapping her stylus against a datapad with increasing irritation. Let me get this straight, Mr. Thornton, you just walked into a high-security containment chamber, with a mop. I was given the wrong security code, Dave explained for the 12th time. I thought I was supposed to clean the diplomatic reception room before the event, and the armor just jumped on you. Dave glanced down at himself. After the initial 24-hour bonding period, Prometheus 1 had finally detached itself, reforming into a sleek bracelet around his wrist. Occasionally it would pulse with soft blue light, as if listening to the conversation. More or less, it seemed excited. If advanced alien technology can feel excitement, I can experience 7,842 distinct emotional states, the bracelet announced suddenly, causing Morgan to jump. Excitement is emotional state #426. It talks, Morgan said flatly, only when it has something to say, Dave replied, then frowned, which is increasingly often actually. The ambassador pinched the bridge of her nose. Do you have any idea what this means for interspecies politics? The Galactic Council has been studying that armor for centuries. Some species consider it a religious artifact, others believe it's the key to lost weapons technology, and now it's chosen a human, specifically, a human janitor, with no diplomatic training, military background or scientific expertise. I did take a community college course on basic xenotechnology, Dave offered helpfully. Did you pass? C-. Morgan's stylus snapped between her fingers. Ambassador Morgan's stress levels increasing, Prometheus helpfully observed. Recommend calming techniques or light sedation. Nobody's sedating anybody, Dave said firmly. Look, Ambassador, I understand this is complicated, but it's not like I planned this, and according to Prometheus, the bonding can't be reversed without, catastrophic molecular destabilization of both operator and unit. the bracelet cheerfully supplied. Right, exploding. So unless you want to explain to Earth why you let one of their citizens explode, we're stuck with each other. Morgan's expression softened slightly. It's not that simple, Mr. Thornton. Every species in the Council wants to study you and the armor now. Some are demanding we turn you over for shared scientific research, which is diplomatic speak for dissection. I'm not a fan of that option, neither am I, but tensions are already high. Humans are newcomers to the galactic stage, and many older species resent how quickly we've been accepted. This incident makes it look like we've been hiding advanced technology, possibly even created the armor ourselves. Dave snorted. We couldn't even make reliable toasters until the 23rd century. A chime at the door interrupted them. A small avian creature with iridescent feathers and 4 wings fluttered in, carrying a datapad nearly as large as itself. Urgent message for Ambassador Morgan, it chirped, dropping the pad onto the table with visible relief. From High Commander Vrex. Morgan scanned the message, her expression darkening. He's calling an emergency council session. All ambassadors required to attend. She looked up at Dave. You're to remain here under guard. Do not leave this room under any circumstances. What about bathroom breaks? There's a private bathroom attached to these quarters. Oh, fancy. After Morgan left, 2 security officers positioned themselves outside Dave's door. He spent the next hour pacing, occasionally stopping to stare out the viewport at the stars beyond. The station orbited a gas giant that painted the view in swirls of amber and crimson. Detecting increased anxiety, Prometheus commented, "Your heart rate has elevated by 12%. Yeah, well, finding out you're the center of an intergalactic political crisis will do that to a guy." Query, do you regret our bonding? The question caught Dave off guard. I don't know, it's a lot to process. Yesterday I was worried about getting my shift schedule for next week, and today I'm worried about causing an interspecies diplomatic incident. Understanding. Human adaptability remains impressive. Thanks, I guess. Dave flopped onto the surprisingly comfortable bed. So, while we're waiting to potentially trigger a galactic war, mind telling me why you chose me? There were plenty of humans on this station more qualified. Scientists, engineers, even the military attaches. The bracelet pulsed thoughtfully. Compatibility is not determined by professional qualifications. Genetic resonance was primary factor. Secondary factors included psychological profile and neural plasticity. My genetic what now? Before Prometheus could elaborate, the lights in the room flickered, then dimmed to emergency levels. A low-pitched alarm began to sound. That can't be good, Dave muttered, sitting up. Security breach detected, Prometheus announced. Hostiles approaching. Recommend immediate defensive measures. What hostiles? How do you know? The door to his quarters exploded inward, with a concussive blast that sent Dave tumbling off the bed. 3 figures entered through the smoke, 2 hulking reptilian beings with scales that seemed to shift color to match their surroundings, and between them, a tall, thin alien with paper-white skin and enormous black eyes. Grolic mercenaries, Dave whispered, recognizing the reptilians from station security briefings. And a void whisper. The white-skinned aliens were notorious for their psionic abilities and moral flexibility. The human and the armor, the void whisperer said, voice like dry leaves scraping stone. Secure them, alive, but damage is acceptable. One of the Grolic grinned, revealing rows of serrated teeth. How much damage? Limbs are negotiable, vital organs less so. Dave scrambled backwards until he hit the viewport. Look, guys, there's been a misunderstanding. I'm just a janitor. Defensive protocols engaged, Prometheus announced, the bracelet expanding rapidly to encase Dave's entire body. Within seconds, he was fully armored, the helmet's HUD displaying threat assessments and targeting information. The Grolic weren't impressed. They raised weapons that looked cobbled together from spare parts yet radiated deadly energy signatures. Null field generators, the lead Grolic growled. Will disrupt your armor's systems. Might scramble your brain too. But employers only specified you needed to be breathing. Evasive action recommended, Prometheus suggested, helpfully. No kidding, Dave replied, diving behind the bed, as the mercenaries opened fire. The null-field weapons fired crackling bolts of energy that distorted the air. One caught the edge of Dave's armor, sending painful static through his left arm. That hurt, he yelped. Minor systems disruption. Adapting. Can you adapt faster? And maybe do something about the guys trying to kidnap us. In response, the armor's right arm reconfigured, the hand retracting and reforming into what could only be described as a very large, very dangerous-looking gun. "Whoa!" Dave exclaimed as the weapon discharged automatically, sending one of the Grolic flying backward into the corridor. "I didn't mean kill them." "Null-lethal concussive round," Prometheus assured him. "Enemy will recover in approximately 4.3 hours with moderate headache." The remaining Grolic roared in fury and charged forward, moving with surprising speed for something so bulky. Dave found himself automatically responding, the armor enhancing his reflexes, as he sidestepped the charge and delivered a counterpunch that sent the mercenary crashing into the food synthesizer. "I don't know how to fight," Dave protested even as his body moved through combat maneuvers he'd never learned. "Muscle memory assistance engaged," Prometheus explained. "This unit contains combat databases, spanning 12,000 years of martial development." The Void Whisperer, seeing both guards neutralized, hissed in frustration. Its enormous eyes began to glow with an unnatural violet light. "Personic attack imminent," warned Prometheus. Mental shielding at 62% capacity. Dave felt a pressure building in his skull, like the worst headache of his life trying to be born. Through watering eyes, he saw the Void Whisperer's thin lips curl into a satisfied smile. "Your armor may resist physical attacks," it whispered directly into Dave's mind, "but your thoughts are exposed to me, and through them, I will control the armor." The pressure intensified, bringing Dave to his knees. Memories began flashing through his mind, childhood disappointments, adult failures, every embarrassing moment he'd ever experienced. "Personic intrusion progressing," Prometheus reported, its voice seeming distant now. "Shielding at 47% and declining." Dave gritted his teeth, trying to focus through the pain. "Who sent you?" The Void Whisperer's smile widened. "Those who understand the true value of what you possess. Those who have waited centuries for its secrets." An image formed in Dave's mind, a shadowy group of figures seated around a table, their features obscured, but their intent clear. Not a government or official organization, but something older, more patient. "The Antiquarians," Dave whispered, the name somehow surfacing from information Prometheus had shared during their bonding. The Void Whisperer's eyes widened in surprise. "Your mind is more accessible than I anticipated." Whatever it planned to say next was cut short as the entire station lurched violently. Emergency sirens wailed, as artificial gravity fluctuated, sending loose objects floating momentarily, before crashing back down. The distraction broke the Whisperer's concentration. Dave felt the psionic pressure ease, as the alien staggered, trying to maintain balance. "Opportunity detected," Prometheus announced, its systems surging back to full power. "Recommend immediate counter-offensive." For once, Dave didn't argue. He charged forward, the armor's enhanced strength propelling him across the room in a single bound. His armored fist connected with the Void Whisperer's narrow chest, sending the alien flying backward into the corridor, where it collided with a squad of station security, who had finally arrived. "Convenient timing," Dave muttered, watching as the security team secured the would-be kidnappers. Timing was not coincidental, Prometheus informed him. Station stabilizers were temporarily disrupted via remote access. "You hacked the station's systems, technically," requested access politely. Station AI was surprisingly cooperative, once diplomatic override codes were provided. Dave shook his head in amazement, as Ambassador Morgan pushed through the security team, her eyes widening at the destruction in his quarters. "Mr. Thornton," she said with forced calm, "I believe I specifically instructed you to avoid incidents during the council session." Dave gestured at the unconscious kidnappers. "In my defense, Ambassador, they started it." The armor retracted from his face, allowing him to offer Morgan a sheepish smile. "Also, I think I might know who's behind this whole mess. Ever heard of the Antiquarians?" Morgan's carefully composed diplomatic mask slipped, revealing genuine shock. "How do you know that name?" "The armor's been sharing information with me, and apparently, these guys work for a secret society that's been hunting for the armor for centuries." "This changes everything," Morgan said quietly. "We need to get you off this station immediately." "Concur," Prometheus added. Probability of additional extraction attempts 94.7%. Dave looked back and forth between the ambassador and his wrist. "Don't I get a say in this?" "No,"
they replied in unison. As security led him down the corridor, toward the diplomatic shuttle bay, Dave couldn't help but wonder how his life had spiraled so dramatically out of control in just 2 days. From cleaning toilets to fleeing assassins, it was like the universe had suddenly decided Dave Thornton was interesting, after 34 years of evidence to the contrary. So, he asked Prometheus, as they hurried through the station, "Where exactly are we going?" "To find answers," the armor replied cryptically, "and perhaps, to find home."
Diplomatic shuttles, Dave decided, were objectively superior to the maintenance transport tubes he usually traveled in. For one thing, they didn't smell like 17 different species versions of industrial lubricant. For another, the seats actually accommodated human spinal columns instead of assuming everyone had 3 separate vertebral ridges. "Where exactly are we going?" Dave asked as Ambassador Morgan piloted them away from the station, her hands dancing expertly over the controls. "Earth Embassy on Proxima Station," she replied without looking back. "We'll regroup there while I contact headquarters about this situation." "By situation, you mean me, don't you?" Morgan's silence was answer enough. Dave slumped in his seat, watching as the space station diminished behind them. Prometheus had reverted to bracelet form, occasionally pulsing with soft blue light, as if in deep thought. "So," Dave said to the ambassador's back, "are you going to tell me who these antiquarians are, and why my fancy new jewelry is so important to them?" Morgan sighed, engaging the autopilot before swiveling her chair to face him. "The antiquarians aren't officially recognized by the Galactic Council. Officially they don't exist." "I'm sensing a but coming." "But," she continued with a slight grimace, "they're the oldest known organization in the galaxy. A sort of cross-species secret society dedicated to finding and preserving technologies from what they call the first cycle of civilization." That sounds ominously vague. Most pre-council history is, according to conventional archaeology, the galaxy has gone through 5 major cycles of expansion and collapse. We're in the 5th cycle now. The antiquarians believe that the first cycle, roughly 1,000,000 years ago, produced technology far beyond anything we have today. Dave glanced at his wrist, like sentient armor that's picky about who wears it. Exactly like that. The armor of Xanadu, or Prometheus, as it calls itself, is one of the most studied first-cycle artifacts ever discovered. Correction, the bracelet interrupted, startling Morgan. "This unit is not from your first cycle, dating is inaccurate." Dave and Morgan exchanged glances. "Then, where are you from?" Dave asked. Instead of answering verbally, Prometheus began projecting a holographic display into the shuttle's cabin. Star charts materialized, showing galaxy configurations that looked almost but not quite like the modern Milky Way. "Coordinates set. Requesting course change." "Whoa, hold on," Morgan protested. "We can't just." The shuttle lurched as its navigation systems suddenly recalibrated themselves. Controls flashed from green to red as Prometheus overrode the ambassador's authority. "How are you doing that?" Dave demanded. "Integration with primitive systems requires minimal effort." "Did your advanced technology just call our shuttle primitive?" Morgan asked incredulously. "I think it did," Dave replied. "And I think it's kidnapping us." "Negative. Merely redirecting to source location as requested." "We didn't request anything." Query about origin interpreted as request for direct observation. Efficiency maximized through physical investigation. Dave rubbed his temples, feeling a headache forming. "You know, for incredibly advanced technology, you're really bad at asking permission." The holographic display expanded, showing their new destination, a small, unremarkable star system near the edge of the Orion Arm. "That's in quarantine space," Morgan said, her voice tight with concern. "The dead zone. No habitable planets, minimal resources. There's nothing there." "Appearances can be deceiving," Prometheus replied enigmatically. As the shuttle accelerated to FTL speeds, Dave settled in for what was apparently going to be a non-optional field trip. Over the next several hours, he tried extracting more information from Prometheus, but the armor remained frustratingly cryptic, offering only vague references to home and creators. Morgan, meanwhile, alternated between attempting to regain control of the shuttle and sending increasingly desperate messages to Earth Command, none of which were transmitting properly due to Prometheus's interference. "You realize this is technically kidnapping a diplomatic representative," she finally said, giving up on the communications array. "That's an act of war." Clarification: cannot declare war on extinct civilization. That silenced both humans for several long moments. "Extinct?" Dave finally asked. "Your creators are extinct." The holographic display shifted, showing a planet with continents that looked disturbingly familiar, yet slightly wrong, like Earth's geography had been rearranged by a child playing with puzzle pieces. "Affirmative." Creators achieved extinction approximately 127,000 standard years ago. Morgan's diplomatic composure cracked. Wait, are you saying your creators were human? That's impossible. Humans evolved on Earth. We have fossil records, DNA evidence, partial accuracy. Current humans evolved on Earth. Creator humans originated elsewhere. The display zoomed in on the planet, showing sprawling cities of impossible architecture, buildings that seemed to flow like liquid while maintaining structural integrity, transportation systems that ignored conventional physics, and energy patterns that hurt Dave's eyes to look at directly. Presenting Terra Prime, original human home world. That's not possible, Morgan whispered, but her voice lacked conviction as she stared at the holographic evidence. 127,000 years, Dave mused. That's well before modern humans according to our archaeological record. But there were earlier human species, Neanderthals, Denisovans, genetic offshoots, Prometheus confirmed. Result of emergency seeding protocol following cataclysm. The display changed again, showing the same planet racked with massive energy storms, continents breaking apart, oceans boiling away. What happened? Dave asked softly. War, division, hubris. Creator humans achieved technological singularity, then fractured into competing philosophical factions. Tale as old as time, Dave muttered. Final conflict resulted in planetary destabilization. Emergency protocols initiated. Seed ships deployed to nearby compatible worlds. Earth. Morgan realized. You're saying advanced humans sent ships to Earth carrying what? DNA. Early humans, genetic material, cultural data, and hibernating survivors. Most ships were destroyed in transit by opposing factions. One reached extinction. Survivors integrated with existing primate population. Technology lost. Civilization restarted. Dave felt dizzy, overwhelmed by implications that rewrote human history entirely. And you? Where do you fit in all this? For the first time, Prometheus expanded not into full armor, but into a humanoid form beside Dave. A featureless figure composed of the same black material as the armor, roughly human, in proportion, but lacking detailed features. This unit was Guardian class, assigned to protect leadership during evacuation. Mission failure resulted in damage and emergency stasis. Drift trajectory brought this unit to current galaxy sector approximately 3,000 years ago, where you were found floating in space, Morgan finished, and spent centuries rejecting every alien who tried to use you. Genetic locks require human DNA. Specific genetic markers found in bloodlines descended from original colonists. Dave looked down at his hands. And I have these markers. Affirmative. Genetic compatibility, 99.978%. Highest recorded since separation from creator humans. A soft chiming alerted them that the shuttle was dropping out of FTL. The view screen showed a seemingly empty region of space. No planets, no stations, nothing but distant stars and cosmic dust. There's nothing here, Morgan said, checking the sensors. Just a small asteroid field, and background radiation. Appearances remain deceiving, Prometheus replied. The holographic form raised an arm, pointing toward what looked like empty space. Home. The shuttle's sensors suddenly spiked, readings going off the charts, as a massive energy signature bloomed, where moments before there had been nothing. Space itself seemed to fold, revealing something that had been hidden behind a veil of distorted light. A station. No, a city. A massive structure, easily the size of Earth's moon, its architecture, both organic and geometric, flowing like liquid metal, yet structured with mathematical precision. It gleamed in the starlight, ancient yet untouched by time. By all that's holy, Morgan breathed. How was this not detected? Phase shifted relative to normal space-time, only visible to compatible technology. As the shuttle approached, guided by unseen forces, sections of the enormous structure illuminated, as if awakening from slumber. Dave felt something stir within him, a connection, a recognition that went beyond conscious thought. It's beautiful, he whispered. It is home, Prometheus replied, and for the first time, Dave heard something like emotion in the synthetic voice, longing perhaps or relief. The shuttle slipped through an opening that appeared in the station's outer hull, entering a vast docking bay where other ships, designs unlike anything in modern records, sat in perfect preservation. As the shuttle settled onto a landing pad, Prometheus turned its featureless face toward Dave. Now you understand why the antiquarians seek this unit. They suspect, but do not know. This is the legacy of your people, the inheritance they were meant to reclaim.
when ready. And you think I'm ready? Dave asked incredulously. I'm a janitor with a C- in xenotechnology. Readiness is not measured by professional certification. Genetic compatibility indicates potential. Character assessment indicates worthiness. Character assessment, you've known me for 2 days. Incorrect. Evaluation began moments after initial contact. This unit has accessed your memories, analyzed decision patterns, observed reaction to crisis. Dave felt vaguely violated. You've been reading my mind. Neural interface is bidirectional. Ambassador Morgan, who had been staring open-mouthed at the docking bay, finally found her voice. So let me understand this. An ancient human civilization destroyed itself, sent colonists to Earth to restart, and left behind technology like this station, and now, thousands of years later, you've decided that Dave Thornton, station janitor, is the chosen one to inherit all of this. Put that way, it did sound ridiculous. Dave waited for Prometheus to correct her, to explain that Dave was just convenient, not special. Instead, the armor said simply, affirmative. But why me? Dave pressed. There must be thousands of humans with the right genetic markers. Compatibility is necessary, but insufficient. Required, adaptability, compassion, absence of power-seeking behavior. Wait, Dave said slowly, a realization dawning. Are you saying I was chosen because I'm unremarkable? Correction, remarkable, in unremarkability. You seek neither power nor glory. You find contentment in simplicity. You show kindness without expectation of reward. Morgan was looking at Dave with new curiosity. The janitor who cleans up everyone's messes without complaint. The human nobody notices, but who notices everyone. The qualities that creator humans ultimately lacked. Prometheus confirmed. The qualities that might have prevented their downfall. As the shuttle door opened, revealing the air of a place undisturbed for over 100,000 years, Dave felt a weight settling on his shoulders, the weight of an inheritance he'd never sought, and wasn't sure he wanted. So what happens now? He asked quietly. Prometheus extended a hand toward him. Now, Dave Thornton, you choose. The legacy of 2 humanities awaits your decision. Dave looked at the hand, then at Morgan, who nodded almost imperceptibly. Taking a deep breath, Dave stepped forward and took the offered hand. The moment their surfaces touched, the entire station hummed to life, illuminating fully, as if greeting a long-lost child who had finally returned home. And in that moment, Dave understood that some janitorial messes were bigger than others, and this one might take more than a mop to clean up.
The thing about discovering you're the genetic key to an ancient civilization's lost technology is that it doesn't come with an instruction manual. Or rather, it does, but it's written in a language that existed 127,000 years before you were born, and the only translator is a sentient suit of armor with the conversational skills of a particularly pedantic GPS system. So just to clarify, Dave said as he followed Prometheus through corridors that illuminated as they approached, this entire station is now mine. Clarification, you are custodian, not owner. Station functionality requires authorized human presence. Custodian, so I'm still basically a janitor. Semantic distinction without difference, Prometheus agreed, which Dave chose to take as support. Ambassador Morgan trailed behind them, frantically recording everything with her diplomatic datapad. This is beyond unprecedented, she muttered. First contact with our own past. The diplomatic, cultural, and technological implications are staggering. Yeah, well, one universe-altering revelation at a time, please, Dave replied, trying not to be overwhelmed as they entered what appeared to be the station's central command center. The chamber was vast, a perfect hemisphere with a ceiling that displayed a real-time view of surrounding space. Control interfaces rose from the floor, not as crude buttons and screens, but as flowing surfaces that responded to proximity and thought. At the center stood a raised platform, clearly designed for a human occupant. Command Core, Morgan whispered reverently. The technology here could advance humanity by centuries, millennia, Prometheus corrected. Thou certain Saphagords recommended, based on creator human history. Dave approached the central platform cautiously. What happened to them? Really, you mentioned war and philosophical differences, but what could drive an advanced civilization to destroy itself? Prometheus's form shifted, expanding into a more detailed humanoid shape, almost as if the question had triggered a more comprehensive presentation mode. Creator humans achieved technological singularity, approximately 135,000 years ago, unlimited energy, matter conversion, biological immortality, Pretty much everything we're still working toward, Morgan commented. Paradigm established, physical needs eliminated. Intellectual and creative pursuits flourished. Sounds ideal, Dave said. Where did it go wrong? Division occurred over fundamental question, purpose. With all needs met, with mortality conquered, with exploration limited, only by cosmic constants, creator humans confronted existential void. Two primary factions emerged. Images appeared around them, holographic recreations of humans in flowing attire, their features both familiar and alien, gathered in what appeared to be grand council chambers. Transcendentalists believed next evolutionary step required abandoning physical form, advocated for uploading consciousness to pure energy state. Another image, humans connected to machines, their bodies withering as their minds merged with streams of light. Preservationists believed physical form essential to human experience, advocated for continuation of embodied existence, even with technological enhancement. The debate seemed academic at first, Dave thought, the kind of philosophical argument that intellectuals might enjoy over dinner. But then the images changed, showing the debate growing heated, societies fracturing, eventually dissolving into open conflict. Hard to believe people would go to war over something so abstract, Dave mused. Conflict rarely begins with violence, Prometheus observed. First comes certainty, then righteousness, then dehumanization of opposition. Finally, justification for elimination of other. Some things never change, Morgan said softly. The final images showed the war's end, a planet tearing itself apart as weapons beyond comprehension were deployed, civilization collapsing in fire and darkness, and the survivors, the ones who made it to Earth? Dave asked. Predominantly preservationists. Ironically, their technology level diminished to Stone Age within 3 generations. Memory of origin preserved only in myth and legend. Atlantis, Morgan realized. Eden. Every culture has stories of a lost golden age. Dave stepped onto the central platform, and immediately the entire chamber responded, controls illuminating, systems awakening. He felt a connection forming, similar to his bond with Prometheus but exponentially more vast, an awareness of the entire station, its systems, its purpose. This is a lot, he managed, feeling dizzy with the influx of information. Human Dave Thornton requires adjustment period, Prometheus announced. Neural interface will stabilize within 72 hours. 3 days to get used to having an ancient space station in my head. Great. Ambassador Morgan approached the platform, her diplomatic training temporarily forgotten in the face of such discovery. Dave, do you understand what this means? You're holding the key to humanity's origin, to technology beyond our wildest dreams. Correction, Prometheus interjected. Dave Thornton is not keyholder. Dave Thornton is gatekeeper. What's the difference? Dave asked. Keyholder merely activates. Gatekeeper decides who enters and who does not. The weight of that responsibility settled onto Dave's shoulders. You're saying I decide who gets access to all this? Affirmative. Primary function of Prometheus, unit. Identify worthy successor to preserve creator human legacy. Prevent repetition of errors. Morgan's expression shifted subtly, the diplomat re-emerging. The Galactic Council will want access. Earth governments will demand control. The antiquarians will never stop trying to take this by force. Anticipated. Station defenses sufficient to repel conventional military forces. Phase shift technology can maintain concealment indefinitely, so I could just keep it hidden. Live here alone as the caretaker of a dead civilization's legacy. Open available but not recommended. Isolation was creator human's final error. Connection remains essential to humanity. Dave thought about his life before all this. The monotony of his cleaning shifts, the loneliness of his tiny quarters, the feeling of invisibility, as diplomats and officers rushed past him in station corridors. He'd been isolated, even surrounded by people. Looking around at the technological wonders surrounding him, Dave made his decision. I want to share this, he said firmly. Not all at once, and not with everyone, but humanity should know its history, and some of this technology could help people. Morgan's eyes widened. Dave, are you sure? The power you're holding isn't mine, he interrupted. I'm just the janitor, remember. My job is to clean things up, maintain them, make sure they work properly. I'm not here to own this place or keep it for myself. Assessment correct, Prometheus agreed. Custodian role encompasses maintenance of legacy and appropriate distribution. But how will you decide what's appropriate? Morgan asked.
Who gets access to what? Dave smiled for the first time since entering the station. That's where you come in, Ambassador. I need a diplomat who understands interspecies relations, who can help establish protocols, treaties, research agreements. Someone who sees the big picture. Morgan blinked in surprise. You want me to help you manage humanity's greatest discovery? I want you to help me share it safely, Dave corrected. Starting with medical technology. There's got to be cures for diseases here that we're still fighting. Then clean energy solutions. The dangerous stuff, weapons, phase-shifting technology, that stays secured until we're absolutely certain it won't be misused. The Galactic Council won't be happy about selective access, Morgan warned. Then we'll need to negotiate, establish trust, build relationships. Dave paused, realizing he was speaking with an authority he'd never felt before. Prometheus chose me, because I don't want power. That doesn't mean I'm afraid to use it responsibly. The station hummed around them, as if approving his words. Displays activated, showing schematics for medical devices, energy systems, agricultural technologies, things that could help without harm, advance without destroying. What about the antiquarians? Morgan asked. They won't give up. Threat assessment significant but manageable, Prometheus stated. Dave Thornton's genetic signature required for full access. Antiquarians cannot utilize station without cooperation, so I'm still the only one who can operate this place, Dave mused. Which means I set the rules. And what are those rules going to be, Mr. Thornton? Morgan asked, her tone respectful in a way it had never been before. Dave thought for a moment, then grinned. Rule number 1, don't be a jerk with super advanced technology. I think that's where the original humans went wrong. They got so caught up in what they could do, that they forgot to ask if they should. A surprisingly profound observation, Morgan admitted. I've had a lot of time to think while cleaning up after diplomats, Dave replied. You can learn a lot about a species by what they leave behind. 3 weeks later, Dave stood before the Galactic Council, wearing Prometheus in its formal configuration, sleek black armor with dignified accents that somehow managed to look both ancient and futuristic simultaneously. The chamber was packed, representatives from every known species crammed into viewing galleries, all eyes fixed on the unremarkable human who had stumbled into galactic history. High Commander Vrex, looking considerably less comfortable than the last time Dave had seen him, called the session to order. The council recognizes Dave Thornton, human custodian of the he paused, struggling with the formal title. Just Dave is fine, Dave offered helpfully. Or that janitor guy who found the ancient space station. Either works. A ripple of confused murmurs ran through the assembly. This wasn't how historical moments were supposed to proceed. The council has reviewed the preliminary agreements proposed by Ambassador Morgan, Vrex continued stiffly. The terms are unusual, they're fair, Dave corrected. Earth gets primary access to its ancestral technology, but with oversight from the Galactic Council. Medical and ecological innovations will be shared with all member species. Military applications remain secured. Many council members find these terms inadequate, Vrex countered. The discovery is too significant to be controlled by a single species, particularly one so new to the galactic community. Dave smiled. I understand your concerns, which is why I've brought a demonstration. He nodded to Ambassador Morgan, who activated a display in the center of the chamber. The image showed an alien child, a young Tauran suffering from a degenerative neurological condition that had no known cure. Beside it appeared medical data, treatment protocols and results, complete neural regeneration within days. This child was dying last week, Dave said simply. Now she's not. The treatment is already being distributed to Tauran medical facilities across the galaxy, free of charge or restriction. Silence fell over the council chamber. We have similar solutions for 57 currently incurable conditions affecting 23 member species, Dave continued. They're being uploaded to your medical databases as I speak. No patents, no proprietary restrictions, no political requirements for access. The silence deepened, then broke as representatives began speaking all at once, their translators struggling to keep up with the flood of questions, demands and expressions of gratitude. Vrex raised all 4 appendages for silence. When order was restored, he fixed his compound eyes on Dave. This is not how negotiations typically proceed, Mr. Thornton. I'm not a typical negotiator, Dave replied. I'm a janitor. My job is to fix problems, not create them, and to ensure resources are properly utilized, Prometheus added, its voice resonating through the chamber. Creator humans fell because they prioritized power over purpose. Custodian Dave Thornton understands proper balance. A Silosian representative floated forward, its 6 eyes blinking in asynchronous patterns. We have analyzed your mind, human. You truly desire no personal gain from this position. Well, I would like a better apartment, Dave admitted, and maybe a coffee machine that doesn't make everything taste like recycled engine lubricant. But beyond that, no, not really. The Silosian retreated, mental tendrils withdrawing. He speaks truth. Remarkable. Precisely why he was selected, Prometheus confirmed. Remarkable unremarkability. As the council session continued, with representatives debating, questioning, and gradually coming to terms with the new reality, Dave found himself thinking about how drastically his life had changed. 2 months ago, his biggest concern had been getting grease stains out of the mess hall carpeting. Now he was negotiating the future of interstellar relations, while wearing sentient armor. Later, as he and Morgan prepared to return to the station, his station, though he still couldn't quite think of it that way, Dave paused to look out at the stars. Did I handle that right? He asked quietly. You offered life-saving medical technology, without demanding anything in return, Morgan replied. You established humanity as a serious player in galactic politics without threatening anyone. You made even the antiquarians reconsider their position. So, not bad for a janitor. Not bad for anyone, Dave. Prometheus, currently in bracelet form, pulsed with soft blue light. Query, experiencing regret regarding new responsibilities. Dave considered the question seriously. Not regret, exactly, just wondering if I'm the right person for this. There are smarter humans, better educated, more qualified, yet none with your specific combination of genetic markers and character attributes. You mean none as stubbornly average, Dave said with a self-deprecating smile. Correction, none as fundamentally decent without requiring recognition for being so. Morgan nodded in agreement. You know, in all our diplomatic training, we're taught to look for leverage advantage, strategic position. You just walked in and asked how you could help everyone. It's so simple, it's revolutionary. Dave laughed. That's me, revolutionary janitor. As their shuttle detached from the council station and set course for the hidden ancient outpost, Dave watched the stars streak past and thought about the first humans, the ones who had achieved so much and lost everything. They had created wonders and horrors, reached for the stars and fallen back to Earth. Now their legacy rested in the hands of a man who had spent his career cleaning up other people's messes, who understood that maintaining what you have is often more important than acquiring what you don't. Anticipating next priority, Prometheus inquired. Dave nodded. I'm thinking education, schools, universities, knowledge distribution, not just the flashy technology, but the history, the mistakes that led to their downfall, the warnings we should heed. Wise choice. Knowledge without wisdom created humans' downfall. Besides, Dave added with a grin, I've always thought the universe could use a good cleaning up. As the shuttle approached the massive ancient station, now partially visible to authorized ships, Dave felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Purpose. Not the kind of purpose that demands recognition or power, but the quiet satisfaction of being exactly where you're meant to be, doing exactly what you're meant to do. The universe had countless secrets, wonders and dangers yet to discover. But for now, Dave Thornton, former janitor, current custodian of humanity's legacy, was content to take them on one at a time, armed with nothing more than decency, common sense, and a very fancy high-tech suit of armor that had searched the galaxy for someone remarkably unremarkable. Sometimes it turned out that was exactly what the universe needed.